Resignations continue to shake Donald Trump's administration, with some members of Congress reportedly prepared to leave in large numbers. Such departures could effectively cripple his administration, potentially turning him into a lame duck president if Mike Johnson were to lose the speaker's gavel before the midterms even arrive. That's why Trump appears more alarmed than ever, as one resignation after another creates turmoil for his term and has now led to a frantic phone call, a call that has leaked and which we'll be breaking down. There's a lot of news to cover, but before we dive into everything, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave a like on this video. And if you enjoy our content and haven't subscribed yet, hitting that subscribe button truly helps support the work we do. Now, before we get into the resignation bombshell that has Trump reportedly panicking on the phone, let's talk about why these resignations are happening in the first place, and why his anxiety seems to be rising. It all ties back to the losing streak he's been facing recently. And trust me, this next part might bring a smile to your face as Chris Hayes lays it all out.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Look, Donald Trump is having the worst political spell of his second term, and my God, is it showing. I mean, you can make the case, with the exception of the immediate aftermath of January 6th, which is his, I think, political nadir, this has been the worst few weeks he's ever had. And it's been a really incredible turn when you consider what people were saying 10 short months ago when Trump was first sworn into office, right? Remember, his administration was desperate to protect strength, as if they had won a massive political mandate instead of a narrow 1.5-point victory. But the projection of strength becomes actual strength if everyone decides to play along. And we saw big tech and big law and media companies and elite universities all preemptively surrender to Trump. But then something started to change. People started saying no. The initial waves of mass opposition to this administration and its overreach started with everyday Americans, people protesting the deportations of their friends and neighbors at ICE facilities, the over 7 million Americans who showed up to No Kings protests from coast to coast, growing each time they were called, or the jurors who, starting very early on, refused to rubber stamp the trumped-up cases that this Department of Justice brought against the people who stood up to them. And once some people started saying no, it created a kind of permission structure for, to give one example, Disney to refuse to pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air forever because Donald Trump doesn't like his commentary. Slowly but surely, the no's have gotten louder and louder, and now it has become a chorus of resistance against this president. Remember, back in the spring, the Democratic leadership in the Senate, particularly under Chuck Schumer, who I interviewed at the time, rubber-stamped Trump's proposal to keep the government open, basically said, this is my budget, take it or leave it, and they took it. In September, they refused to go along with a unilaterally Republican-only crafted spending bill, and we had the longest shutdown fight in the country's history. Now, ultimately, some of them relented. They caved, 8 of them. They lost the fight over insurance subsidies for millions of Americans. But the politics of the shutdown just definitively shifted things firmly onto the opposition's terrain. Democrats were able to frame the narrative on their own terms. They successfully made health care an issue that is front of mind for voters. The polling shows the messaging is resonating with voters. The Obamacare issue has been left unresolved. I think crazy thing for Republicans to do, because premiums are in fact shooting up. That wasn't made up. And it's going to haunt the entire Republican Party, particularly Republican House members in swing seats heading into the midterms who have to explain what's going on to their voters. In fact, there are reports that some Republicans are already privately panicking over those upcoming elections. We got one new poll that shows Democrats with a gargantuan 14-point lead in the generic ballot. Now, that's an outlier in the polling, and if that ends up being an outlier in the final result, even so, it is very clear when you put all the polling together, the Democrats right now are the ones with political momentum. That's evidenced by the off-cycle elections earlier this month, the first real test we had of all of this, when Democrats flipped the governor's mansion and the state legislature in Virginia, opening up a supermajority there. They became the first party in decades to hold New Jersey's gubernatorial mansion for 3 straight terms, to say nothing of the fact that 34-year-old Democratic Socialist beat both a Republican and a Trump-endorsed independent candidate to become the mayor-elect of the biggest city in the country.
L after L for Donald Trump. It is nothing but losses. That is all he has seen lately. Not just at large as we look at his political career falling apart, but his control over MAGA, the political conditions. Yeah, they're horrible. His poll numbers never been worse, but his grip on MAGA loosening, that is something that Donald Trump would have never expected. It is why Republicans who no longer fear him, are defying him, are ready to resign. And one Republican who resigned months ago is creating maybe the biggest resignation problem for Trump yet. It's why he's panicked on the phone. I want to get into it all right here. Tennessee Republican Mark Green to resign from Congress for private sector job. Mark Green of Tennessee said Monday that he will resign from Congress after it passes a massive policy bill to advance Donald Trump's domestic agenda. Now, of course, that Trump big bill passed, Green resigned, and now there's a special election in Tennessee, which brings us to Scoop. Trump and Johnson to hold tele-town hall for GOP in tight Tennessee House race. Donald Trump and Mike Johnson plan to hold a Monday evening tele-town hall to boost a Republican candidate in a high-stakes Tennessee special congressional election. The Trump-Johnson dual rally underscores the emphasis Republicans are placing on the December 2nd election. Johnson will hold several campaign events in the Nashville area district earlier that day. Trump won Tennessee's 7th congressional district by 22 points, so Republicans are heavily favored, but the race is closer than ever with 2 percentage points separating the Republican and Democrat Afton Bain. Donald Trump is set to call into a rally alongside Mike Johnson in a district he won by 22 points just a year ago. This race should have been effortless for Republicans, something not even worth worrying about. Yet Trump is reportedly panicking, making frantic phone calls because a Republican from what used to be a solidly pro-Trump seat resigned. Right after Trump pushed through what many consider the worst piece of legislation of either of his terms. The representative was so frustrated and fed up that he simply walked away. All of this reflects what Trump may be facing in the future. Widespread resignations over an upcoming health care plan, scandals continuing to hit his administration, and numerous ongoing investigations. There are even accusations of war crimes, and Trump repeating talking points from Russia, all of which have Republicans threatening to step down. This could force Trump into multiple special elections, something he desperately wants to avoid, especially since losing them could flip the House to the Democrats. And in the midst of all this, there's a race in Tennessee, the very one Trump is calling into. That could put enormous pressure on the GOP if they lose it. That's why it's more important than ever to highlight this race and support Afton Bain, the outstanding candidate running there who recently sat down for an interview. It's definitely worth listening to.
I want to ask you about an attack line from Republicans, because this is a comment you made in 2020 about Nashville. It's gotten a lot of attention in your race. Let's listen to this.
I hate the city. I hate the bachelorettes. I hate the pedal taverns. I hate country music. I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently, an it city to the rest of the country, but I hate it.
I know you said those comments were taken out of context, but I want to ask you about it, because I'm wondering, do you think it was a mistake to say that?
Once again, I was a private citizen. Nashville is my home. Do I roll my eyes at the bachelorette parties and the pedal taverns that are blocking my access to my house? Yeah, every Nashvilleian does. But this race has always been about something bigger. It's about families across Middle Tennessee that are getting crushed by rising prices, while Washington politicians and billionaires argue about this type of nonsense.
That's the kind of candidate we can truly stand behind, and that's the kind of message we should rally around, constantly helping elevate these candidates, amplify their voices, and bring attention to important races. With a major election coming up, it's important to get the message out. And if you're in Tennessee, get out there. Knock on doors, make phone calls. Donald Trump is mobilizing, so we need to be active too. He's panicking. which means we need to be ready. We'll keep covering this race on the show every single day. If you want to support the effort, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give this video a like. And if you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.